Hey everyone. I was going to, I used to be a trainer for a long time, and I thought I'd tell y'all some of the funny stories of things that happened when I had these students on the truck. They were very interesting times. I think that if you're a good driver and you have patience, that training is a wonderful thing to pass on the knowledge that you have to up and coming truckers to do it right. Now, if you wasn't trained right and you think you was trained right, you might have not been. I don't know, right? But so everybody shouldn't train. I'm not saying everyone should, but it's a good thing to pass on knowledge. But I thought I'd tell you some of this stuff because it was quite hilarious. I had a female student, and she got arrested for being a hooker. Now, you can't beat that, right? But we were at the TA, and now this particular student was an excellent student. She learned how to float gears the first day, and but she couldn't drive in mountains. She just couldn't do it. But anyway, we were at the TA, and she went inside to get breakfast and everything, right? And I was asleep. And when I woke up, she still wasn't back. And when I went looking for her, the waitress inside said that they had called the cops on her because she was a hooker. Now, this was a much older lady. She was probably 60, and she took good care of herself, but she wasn't a hooker at all. But she was kind of simple-minded and funny. And she liked to hang out on Liar's Corner and talk to all the drivers, because she had been around trucking a lot, not as a hooker. And that afternoon, she come rolling up in the cop car, and they dropped her off and told her to have a good day. The TA had called the cops on her, though. Turned her in for being a hooker. And by the time, she never thought to tell the police, I'm a driver. And when they finally got around to checking her CDL, her license, they were like, oh, gee, you're a driver. You're probably not a hooker. That was funny as hell. The TA gave her food for life. I had a fella that he decided when we got to Mount Shasta in a snowstorm that he didn't want to be a truck driver anymore. So he stopped the truck right in the middle of the mountain. And it's not even a bad mountain, right? But in a snowstorm, it was kind of scary, I guess. And he just refused to drive anymore and quit. Yep. I had a female on the truck that was peeing in 44 those big gulpies and putting them in her cabinet up there, and I didn't have a clue she was doing that until I smelled something weird one day, and I went investigating. I had some things to say to that student, and I can tell you now. I had a guy from Africa that he trucked around me for about a week. And when we got about 50 miles from the mountains out west, and he saw the mountains, he quit. He just quit. He ran away that night at the truck stop. Never saw him again. But he left me a good pillow. Yeah. All right. Now this one here was quite funny. I had a guy that had to go to the bathroom. So I stopped at a Kroger because we was driving through town. He lived on the other side of the country. He went in the Kroger, and I never saw him again. Finally, when I went inside and started looking for him, they said, yep, he came in the front door, and he walked right back out the back door, and he never stopped, running all the way. That was some funny stuff. All right. I had a student that was on the truck for 3 weeks, and apparently he was smoking weed because he got pulled for a random and he burned it up. Just burned the bottle down. That was sad. He was a good driver too. I had one that every time, and I trained a lot of females because I'm patient, right? Every time she drove, her stomach would hurt. She couldn't drive. She just had a boo-boo. Her stomach hurt. Actually, found out later she had H. pylori, whatever that is. That's some kind of stomach condition. Okay, this one here was terrible. This one here wanted to physically get in fights with me all the time. I mean, we would have altercations, and I never kick people off the truck. I figure if I have to, I can take them in a fight, right? But I'd still give them a chance to drive. We would get in shoveling matches, right? And I'd tell him, get the fuck off the truck, right? And then he'd just stand out there and pout for a little while, and I'd tell him, all right, you can get back in now. Anyway, by the time his time was up, he didn't want to get off the truck, and he tried to give me his daughter. Actually, she was fine, but I was like, I'm a little old for her. He was like, come on, she'll do what I tell her. No, I don't want to be your father-in-law. One time, I woke up in a gas station, not a truck stop, and not a gas station with a parking lot, but a gas station where cars was at. It was a tight fit, but I got out. Okay, and believe this or not, girls are the best students for the first 3 or 4 weeks of training. They take direction, they listen, they're attentive. Now, they get dangerous after that, about that 4th week, because they get overconfident. But then they calm down again. And guys are scared of training. When they're in the truck, they're terrified, and I've never seen so many scared guys, just totally scared. I don't understand it. As a trainer, I've trained people that had just came out of the pen. A lot of times, whenever they would get on the truck, I'd tell them, I wouldn't know their story, right? But, okay, you're getting in my truck, you're going to tell me your story before we go anywhere, because I want to know who I'm sleeping with, more or less. And you wouldn't believe the stories that you hear out here. A lot of manslaughters and drug convictions and stuff. And, of course, life situations makes things happen. That doesn't mean that they're bad people. They just had a bad situation and they handled things wrongly or whatever. That can happen to anyone. But training is a very interesting thing. It's not for everyone. And it's not to be used as a tool to totally enrich yourself, although you can make a lot of extra money training. I mean, if you're making $75,000 as a lease operator, for instance, you can bump that up to $160,000, $170,000 net really easy. So I've had people tell me, well, I'm not going to let a student tear up my truck. Well, hell, you make another $100,000, let that student tear up that truck. Who cares? You go buy another one. Every 2 years, boom, right? And actually, they don't hurt anything. I never had any student do any damage to my trucks, not clutches or anything. It was always actually drivers that I hired that hurt things. But anyway, that was just some interesting training stories. Not even that horror stories, actually, but some training stories. You guys have a good day.